Hey guys, Ralph here. True Power Trumpet Fitness, and I'm not even gonna play for you today. I tell you what, I just let me explain. I just got off the phone with one of the greatest brass players that ever lived. I mean, Dave STEINMEYER, who was the lead trombone soloist and director for many years of the Airmen of Note, which was probably the best jazz band in the world. Um, for that period of time. Um, and anyway, I asked him for a half an hour of his time. Close to an hour and a half later, we're still yapping like we're long lost buddies. And I want to get it down before I forget it. I have mountains of notes here that I took. And I'm probably going to get a lot of it wrong, okay? But Dave, if you're going to watch this, if I miss a date here and there, if maybe you weren't playing that mouthpiece at that time or whatever the case may be, bear with me. You get the idea. And this is about chops. Now let me explain. One of my students down in Florida grew up with him, went to the same high school as him. I believe he was a year younger than him. And this is a high school that Bruce Dave, my student, an excellent trumpet player, an older gentleman in his 70s, but still actually playing very well. Another guy in the band was also in the Airmen of Note with Dave. Rita Coolidge. I mean, it must have been an absolute monster high school music program. I mean, please. But anyway, we'll get to the chops in a minute. But this guy led such an astounding life. I mean, you got to understand the Airmen of Note was the jazz band of the military bands. So, all the inaugural balls, all the, weddings and all this sort of stuff for the dignitaries, and the dignitary will come from, and then they'll have a party and all. He played at all this stuff. And the experience is just off the charts. Not to mention, now remember, ever since, Duke Ellington and Count Basie and Lionel Hampton and all those bands sort of went the way of the big band. Most of the big bands that remain, Maynard, Stan Kenton, Woody Herman, for the most part would take kids. Kids that wouldn't mind working for little money, no insurance, no retirement, get on the back of the bus and drive all night to another gig. And there was a huge turnover. And again, it was mostly kids, good kids, don't get me wrong. I mean, they had excellent bands. But this band was solid professionals that they kept the same personnel for 20, 30 years at a time. They rehearsed every day. I mean, it's just a fabulous performing ensemble. Now also, Dave STEINMEYER, go to Google. Now, as you know, I am not computer literate enough to put clips of his playing on this. I know it's very easy, and I don't know how to do it. So anyway, that's your homework, my friends. Go to Google and just enjoy maybe one of the greatest for sure, if not the greatest trombone virtuosi that ever came down the pike. And that's your homework. Please, Dave STEINMEYER, like it sounds, STEINMYER, Airmen of Note. And there's got to be at least 25 clips there of him playing just about everything. But anyway, he started playing piano at 5. And guys, this is probably for me to get all this in, and I want to, because he was very nice with his time. And I just find it fascinating anyway. So I want to get this all in. And this will probably take 2 videos. So I'll put one up today, and maybe I'll save another one for tomorrow. Okay? But anyway, he grew up in Florida. And I never finished the story. I got off about the high school. But my student is the one that put me in touch with him. I didn't know that he was a friend of his. When I found out, I said, man, if I'm ever in Florida, I'm coming over to your house, and you're going to take me over to STEINMEYER's house, and I'm going to talk to him. He said, no problem. I'll get you in touch with him. You can do a Skype. So you know how you are, who you are. I won't use your name. But thank you for doing that. Anyway, he didn't start playing trombone until the 8th grade. He did play piano, 5 years old. Okay? Started playing piano. No lessons. That's another thing, guys. While you're listening to this virtuosi play, Never had a lesson in his life. Had band, never had a private lesson. Never went to college, and that's a funny story too. Went right into the service bands. So at 5 years old, he was playing trombone. 8th grade, finally it's time to be in the band. And an older friend of mine, an older brother, I think it was an older friend of his that he really liked, was an excellent trumpet player, and all he wanted to do was play the trumpet. Join the club, Dave, right? Join the club. Anyway, the band director at the time said, look, I got zillions of trumpet players. What I need is a trombone player. If you want to be in the band, you got to play trombone. So he goes home totally bugged because he wanted to play the trumpet. His father sits him down, plays him a Tommy Dorsey album. And he said, look, if you can do this, then you've got something. Okay? And he listened, I guess that's not so bad, right? And after a very, very short period of time, he really grew to love it. And he was just a wacky not even practicer in the traditional sense, I got the impression, but playing. Just loved to play. Now remember, he had no lessons. So nobody gave him routines. Nobody, whipped him with scales and all this sort of stuff. What he did was he just got records. He fell in love with Stan Kenton and the big bands and just played along with the records. And I guess any music reading he was getting in band, and the rest is history. He talked a lot about, he said it only took a week or two, and he figured out how to push the air. Okay, I'm gonna get to that in a second. Very, very interesting. Push the air, and he used that phrase a lot. That's all there is to it, pushing air. Now, I was a little concerned because so many of these great players, these natural players, can't break down what we do and tell you how they're doing it. Pushing air. Now, he's a very, very natural player, but I'm going to sum it up at the end, okay? And you'll see where we're going. With that said, it's a very funny story, okay? He's in high school, and he's wiping out all the juniors and seniors. He's just a sophomore. Anyway, by this time he's a sophomore, he's playing first and a bit of a legend around Florida and doing small jobs and everything. By the time he's a senior, there was a a pretty well-known jazz band, local jazz band, that played at the school. I guess they played, dances and all that at the school. It was this professional, pros, older guys. And they needed a trombone player. So he tried out for it. And the director asked him to play, I'm sentimental. And he nailed it. Boom, he got the job. So he didn't think anything of it. So he's playing with this thing for a period of time. Okay, fast forward a few months, and it's time to audition for college. And he's down in Florida. And he is going to audition for University of Northern Florida, Central Florida, University of Florida, one of those University of Floridas. There's dozens of them down there. And he walks in, and this room is chock full of all these guys with the F attachments and all this sort of stuff. And he's just got his tenor. And the professor, who is a PhD, comes out and takes one look at him and starts being mean to him. I mean, really degrading and mean and nasty and all this sort of stuff. What the heck? Now his band director brought him to the audition, and he's listening to this, and he says, you know what, Dave, just go out and sit in the car. I'll be out in a minute. He came out 10 minutes later, and he says, look, this is not the place for you. We'll do something else. As it turned out, the dance band, that's the guy he took the job from. How funny is that? How funny is that? And the rest is history. So he didn't go to college, and there was a military band down in Cape Canaveral that he went down, a jazz band, got the job, boom, and he's been working ever since. And the Cape Canaveral band just led to the Airmen of Note, and the rest is history. And I'm telling you guys, please, 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 if you get a minute, check out those Googles, those internet things. It's sublime, absolutely sublime. He can play the Tommy Dorsey theme, sentimental, up an octave. Up an octave. Check this out. I said, let me ask you a question. I said, let me ask you a question. Could you take your tenor trombone and your mouthpiece and go up right now, sit down first chair in the New York Philharmonic and play Bolero? So I do Bolero all the time, up an octave. I mean, this never had a lesson. Never had a lesson. He's just pushing air. He, when he was younger, he was out playing basketball, fell, chipped his tooth. Back in the day, if it didn't hurt, you didn't sweat it. So the minute he goes home and he just tries to find another position that he could push some air, and he's done. Just got to push some air. In the meantime, he is talking about playing Frank Rosolino, Irby Green, Buddy Morrow, Bill Waters. He's just tossing these names out like nothing, like candy. Played with them all. Played with them all. And probably played with them all up an octave too. While he was in Washington, he was freelancing quite a bit. The military bands, they're very, very strict, what time they have to be there and what time they have to rehearse and where the gig is and all this sort of stuff, what to wear to the gig. As you know, it's just down to the minutest detail. But they do have some free time. So he was doing a lot of freelancing around D.C. He would often come up to New York, play with some of those jazz, Lincoln Center, not Winton's thing, before that. But he was running around doing some stuff in New York and all sort of stuff. He said that was one of the toughest nuts to crack, getting in with the guys up in New York. He said all his career, he had issues with people looking down on the fact that he was just a service guy player. Which is a joke. I mean, he has better chops and better technique than most trumpet players. Okay? I mean, this was amazing. Absolutely amazing. Anyway, I'm getting to the end now. Okay, so I'm going to sign off, and we're going to get to more about the chops. We did talk a little bit about chops and mouthpieces and everything, and that's quite telling. That's quite telling. I got some nice stories about that. So we'll do that tomorrow. I'll put this up today, and then we will finish it up tomorrow. Okay, very good, guys. Eat and drink your fruits and vegetables, and live your life with true power.